Hey everyone, it is season 3 of Diablo 4 finally coming to us. And so far it's been a really interesting one. I did something a little bit different. I actually played into it blind. I did not watch any of the previous stuff, but I want to cover 5 things I wish I would have known about Seneschals. Seneschals is this little pet, this guy that's following me around, because I think these are going to be the crazy powerful mechanic that's going to change how the game feels entirely. And so far, that is absolutely how it's been. It is a cool experience. I love having a pet to begin with, even for a cosmetic one. I like having something that just kind of follows me around and adds a little element to the game. But what's super cool about this is it is crazy powerful. So as we get into it, I do also, after I go through the 5 things, I do want to give you one more thing, a tip that will actually help you get the most out of it. There is some crazy complexity going on in this, and I want you to basically get the most out of it very quickly. So the very first thing, though, that I wish I would have known is just how quickly you get it. You know, you start the game, you start through the seasonal quest, but to get it the fastest, you do need to know a couple things, and I know some people were confused last season about it, which is when you start your character, you have to choose seasonal character, and then you still have to choose skip campaign. As long as you have beaten the campaign ever before, you can skip right to the seasonal stuff. As you go through a handful of the seasonal quests, it will open up your pet rather fast. So now it comes, once you have gotten this guy, we now need to know, how do we power him up? And that is really simple. Once we have come into the game, we're just going to go into our normal menu where our items are. Next to your items or your equipment tag is going to be another tag. It's grayed out until you get your pet, but once you do, here it is. You click on it and you get this window. So this is similar to what we saw where the vampiric power had its own tab, but this is where we're going to be controlling it all from. Now there's 2 main stones that you want to know about. That build up its powers and kind of sets what kind of build you're going to do with your creature and how does it all play together. So the very first thing is these big squares are going to be governing stones. So there's a collection of governing stones you can have. They fall into the categories of melee, ranged, or utility. And then there's going to be tuning stones. And these are a wide variety of ones that can affect most of your governing stones powers. So the governing stones here, I put one here, one here. These are the attack powers that my creature has. There's also these utility ones, which might give it the ability to heal you, give you protection and other things like that. But I've gone 2 ranged attacks here, and then the tuning stones just change a little bit about how these powers work. But they can be dramatic, especially if you're getting 3 modifications on it and they all stack up to each other. We can get some pretty crazy powers going on by the time we're reaching endgame. That brings me to the third thing I wish I would have known a little bit about before we went into it. It is something that when I got into, I thought this is going to be crazy. And that's these actually synergize with your skills and abilities. So if we go through and we start looking at some of these tuning stones, this one here has the ability to add bleed. So if you're running a bleed build and this is already applying the status effect onto all the monsters, especially if we're chaining it up to like 12 with stones like this arching support that keeps jumping from to multiple enemies, we can not have to worry with our main skills about applying an effect necessarily, and more about just doing more damage when that effect's applied. So that can start scaling up and bring more points back on our skill tree because our pet's taking care of that. And that's definitely something that I think is going to make powerful builds by the time we reach endgame, where the synergies between your Seneschal and your actual build is going to allow you to put more points and just getting more and more powerful. The biggest thing for power is going to be leveling up these, all the things that we can already do with our current builds, but these are going to bring our builds to the next level. And so as we level these, and you're probably wondering, how do we level? Because it's not super clear in these, but the way they level is actually by getting more of the same stone. And it took me a bit to see, because I kept getting stones, like I already got this pummel stone, and then I'd get like 2 more and I was like, nothing's happening. Do I trade that in? Can I break it down? I had no idea what was going on. But as you get the stone, if you look at progress until rank 2, at the bottom, it's showing 20 of 30. And so I've gotten 2 extra of these. At this point, my best guess, and I think it's pretty accurate from everything I've seen, because every time I get one, it adds 10 points to that line. I don't know what the level scaling is going to look like. I don't know if you have to get 50 to get rank 3 and so on and so forth. And it's like ridiculous to get to 10. But at this point, I know that when we get as we get extra stones, either the governing stones or tuning stones, we are going to be able to look here and see as these points get closer to 30. And then eventually when we get all 3, the first 3, then we'll get our first level. So, and that will on as for each of the levels. So now that we know that leveling is going to be done by getting more of these stones, we probably want, and probably most importantly, is to know where to get them, because that is going to come into play. The first place is a little obvious, and I'm going to show you that, is just as you progress through the thing, eventually the jeweler will have the ability to allow you to build different Seneschal stones. First, we're going to get the uncertain Seneschal stone cache. And so I don't know as we level if more are going to open here, but that's my guess, that we're going to either get better chests or maybe even be able to make the stones directly. But then we just have to have the materials to do it. So shattered stone is probably one of the bigger drops of things that are happening that we use a lot through the different things in this season. And then I'd also have some iron chunk if I want to open up my next one. I've opened a couple, and so this is a great way to get stones. Now, the next best place, and I'm going to actually pause for a second and then just jump over there to show you guys that directly. Okay, so we are outside. What is really cool about the next piece is the elements that allow you to level up your Senestones are everywhere. They're not just in one area of the map. They're not in like the Blood Harvest where they were rotating in one little section. They are literally everywhere. As you run around the maps, if you see my little mini app, there's these little things here. There's obelisks, and those will drop the stones that we're looking for in the different parts that we're looking for to then use elsewhere to then give us a chance at dropping those. I've also seen that the stones do drop from these, especially as I level more. Sorry, my gameplay is going to be horrible because I'm more focused on kind of showing you what is going on here. So as we go through, they have these different effects. They're little mini events. And you can go there and you just kind of level up and grind like crazy. As I was just kind of doing these, not really paying attention, I was able to get the pieces that I needed rather quick. And what they have here, and let's see if I can just see it on the map so I don't have to run to, yeah, we're going to run up here. So these little things open up and they're all over the place. And then you're going to eventually be able to run to these braziers. So the voltaic braziers are where we take shattered stones and then some of these core elements. When we are doing these little challenges like this one right here, so you can see this little tower, when we do these, the monsters and generally that we're killing, if you see that the construct monsters or monstrous seneschals, whatever you want, that they're basically look like versions of our little guy, they're going to be kind of everywhere, and they're going to be dropping those shattered stones that we were looking at. And so that's going to be your main element that you use for most anything. There's at least base to it, and then there's going to be other ones. When we finish them, they're also going to give you a core. So let me go, and I'm going to run over to this one real quick, and we can look at that, but I'll show you the requirements. So if you think about it, like when we were doing Blood Harvest, we would get all those elements and then we would go over to like an altar. And especially if we like saved up 150, we could run the 3 altar and get just crazy drops. Like it just was insane. So in this one, for the stones, we have these little shrines, these braziers. And so as you click on it, it tells you what you need. So the elemental cores, when you finish those, though you get like at least 1, I think, from what I've seen so far. And the shadow stones, you get a ton from killing all the constructs, as we talked about. But you load them here, and it seems you get plenty of resources. I didn't find myself going, man, I'll hold on to these and then wait later, or hope that somebody else comes by and starts kicking this up too, because it does work. If any player comes by and opens it, you still get the drops as long as you're standing around here. So similar to the altars. So then I'll go ahead and show you this. So we take these and we go ahead and activate. And so it's going to do kind of what we did in the Blood Harvest, where we were going after our vampiric assassins. I forgot what for some reason I can't remember what they were called exactly, but I think everybody knows. You know, the vampiric assassins. So then it opens, a bunch of creatures come out and attack you, kill them long enough that then a boss comes out, and then we can take down the boss, and you'll see is that the boss will actually drop the stones directly. So that's where we can get some really cool, that's a fast way to get the stones, because this wasn't long and it doesn't take long to get the resources, especially if you're lucky enough to have someone come wander along that actually has abilities themselves, or has some of the stone materials themselves. Then we can sit here and kind of chain. I remember one of the first times I came across this, I didn't even know what it was, and I just had like 5 people come and like load it up. So I just played a bunch, and then I loaded 2 more myself, so it was just a ton. But if you see, that's the tuning stones and the other drop. So that's I think one of the quicker ways to drop it. Between that and using materials that you get around to go create those caches, you're going to get a lot of these very, very fast. So between those, you can probably get a ton really quick. Now, I'm not sure about this, but from what I'm seeing in the season so far, there's probably going to be dungeons where you go in and you also can get stones there as well that are being core to the storyline, that you're going into the recesses of Cole's libraries and stuff. and you're going to find more and more of these as you start to face the new boss in this season. So those are probably going to be our key places to get these stones and get a ton of them. But what's really nice is they have left it open world is actually viable for people to go out and get the stones and get to pretty decent levels before you go down to the depths and start grinding more of those. I have not got to a place where those dungeons are showing up on a regular. I just feel it's coming from what I'm seeing in the storyline. So those are probably going to be the core places that we get stones, and then probably random drops. There's still probably a chance to get it in other places as well. I do think I've gotten it from chest and things like that. I've seen that. So now that brings me to the thing that I really wish I would have known, and this is how to get the most out of this season. Because what's really cool about what's going on with the Seneschal is that the amount of combinations that are available here is huge. And so what I highly recommend is something that I did as I started getting the different support elements and the different governing stones, I was switching them out pretty crazily. So once you find, like, test a bunch of the stones, the governing stones, and find what powers you want your guy to have that help you play the way you want to play. You know, I'm having my creature do more distance. I was thinking about putting defenses on later. My character's finally feeling a little squishy. That's because I haven't gone and gotten the special power for I haven't done the rogue special quest and got its powers, which is probably the next thing I need to do, because those will massively jump me in power. But later on in the end game, if I'm going to do some more range and I want to do more damage from afar, then I might want to have where my creature's actually adding more defenses as well, and that make it crazy powerful. But testing out how the different stones work and what combinations you like and what feels good. When you do that earlier, like if you look at this, I don't have all of these open. I just have this small handful. So if I start now with these groups, I'll have a very good feeling for how these feel for me and what I like and don't like, and what combinations work best for each of those. Now, if you want to see me making an absolute fool of myself, I did a live stream today going in completely blind. I didn't even know what class I was going to play or anything. Checking this out for the first time. If you want to see that, make sure you go check out my live recording. It is up now on my channel, and you can watch that all there and just laugh at me all you want. So I'll see you guys soon. Have a great time in Sanctuary.